very, very angry about what the Conservatives are doing to human rights and to access to justice. I mean, like, I can get really, really angry about it. I mean, what's not to like about human rights? And this old lady said, why do you keep saying people have died so we can have human rights? Like right out, she's right in my face, right at the front. And I went, managed to carry on for a bit, and then she said, we don't need legal aid, we don't need human rights, we've got the Magna Carta. Honestly, she truly said that. I was going to put it on my website actually, but you know, that 13th century piece of art that was written by real tough men for real tough men and never mentions the word woman once, let alone LGBT. God help us if we've got to rely on that. Why we have human rights and why we needed human rights in the first place. Because I think there's a danger of thinking things have got so good for us now, we don't really need them anymore. And that just ain't the case, it really isn't. The Tory government has committed to scrapping the Human Rights Act within the next 100 days. They're talking about replacing it with a Bill of Rights, but that's a Bill of Rights that they're prepared to allow us to have, not the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which we are all guaranteed. And there's been a lot of talk about, well, if they scrap the Human Rights Act, we've still got the European Convention. Well, the plan is to come out of that as well, which will leave us with the UN. Tell 10 people who don't know about this, tell them. Tell them this is being done in their name. Tell them that we are losing our rights. Use social media. There is a petition, well there's 2 petitions actually, one's on the Amnesty website, one's on the Liberty website. Please sign them. It's a petition demanding a national referendum on whether we should use the Human Rights Act or not.
Biphobia is distinct from homophobia. It can be very different. And also, bisexual people often face discrimination, as I pointed out before, within both communities, for lack of a better word. And this can be obscured. Hate crime, actually, when you separate the bisexual statistics out from it, bisexuals face higher amounts of hate crime than L and G people do. Yet that is rarely addressed. And when it is put together, I actually sit on the CPS panel for homophobia and transphobia. And it's rarely pulled out, CPS, sorry. And it's often obscured, they're all pushed together and spoke as a unity thing. That 45% of bisexual women have attempted or considered suicide. That's off the scale. That's absolutely off the scale. Bisexual men drag them behind. But often these get amalgamated into one kind of number. Bisexual women are twice as likely to have an eating disorder than lesbians, and bisexual women report the highest rate of alcohol use, heavy drinking, and alcohol-related problems that come with it. Bisexual men report the highest rate of smoking. I've yet to see a fully positive image of a bisexual person in the media yet, without fulfilling one of those stereotypes. And when we don't exist, or we're portrayed as feminine, or there's something about them that must be matched to more of the gay or the same sex, we just become invisible. And that's what annoys me, is that bisexuals tend to become seen as unstable, unreliable, unpromotable, because they can't make their mind up in other aspects of life. We have UK bisexual communities, it's great. We're not found as much in commercial scenes, you know, there's not often the bisexual bar. We have the annual BiCon and local bifests all around the country. And we have meeting groups like Bisexual Underground, and I love this, the Bi Coffee London. There is a movement, there is something there, but we're forgotten about, largely. And so, what you tend to find though, the difficulties in that is that we're not always connected to bigger communities, and struggle to do that, because we're also disparate and spread around. And we don't have a voice which is as strong, or politics, in many senses, we haven't gathered ourselves as strongly either.
Just before last year's changing the law, first same-sex wedding will be held in 2014, and it's a lovely visual saying everyone's invited. And this is the sort of culture that we're living in today. We're living in a culture formally that says everyone's invited. We have these institutions and we have these equalities and we have these changes in society where everybody's invited. 2002. In 2002, for the first time, lesbians and gay men as couples can adopt and foster children. Up until 2002, that wasn't allowed. lesbians and gay men couldn't adopt children. And I'm asking you to think about that theme of fear, and all the way through these facts, what I'm interested in thinking about, what's the fear? What were people afraid of? 2002, the Adoption and Children's Act. Up until then, a lesbian or gay man could foster and adopt children as a single person, only as a single person. So that was massive for 2005, the Gender Recognition Act. The Gender Recognition Act was passed. This was a realisation that people who changed their sex, who transitioned from male to female or from female to male, had undergone one of the most traumatic things that they would ever go through. And then what was realised was they've done that with the help of the medical profession, but they can't go anywhere, travel, because they've got a passport with a different sex on it. They lose their jobs. They usually lost their families. So people transitioning with their sex, the story that's often not told is the story of loss. 2008, and another massive piece of statute was amended, and that statute was the Human Fertilisation and Embryology Act. So we are living through a period of rapid legal change, rapid legislative change, and there's something going on that I think is quite interesting, which is a liberalisation and equalisation on the one hand, but on the other hand, I don't think homophobia has gone away. I think it becomes more flexible, and I think it re-emerges in different ways and shows itself in different places.
The Rainbow Laces campaign, which emerged in the late summer of 2013, it was a joint initiative, if you like, by Paddy Power, the Irish bookmakers, and Stonewall UK. I'll come on to that in a few moments. The other additional component I want to speak about with regards to LGBT, particularly within football, is the phenomenon that has emerged over the course of the last 2 years, where many of the leading clubs in England now have a designated lesbian, gay, bisexual and transgender supporter section. It's something I believe does have merits, but it's something I hope doesn't have to exist too long into the future. The campaign emerged in 2013, and the backdrop was that in the preceding months the issue of gay and bisexual professional footballers had came to the surface. I give equality training to professional footballers. I do it on behalf of the Professional Footballers Association, the union in England which represents the rights of more than 3,000 professional footballers. I stand to be corrected, but I would be of the view that the Professional Footballers Association in England is the only trade union globally that will have a membership of more than 3,000 that doesn't have one member who is openly gay. And considering this is an organisation which preaches about equality, has its own equality department within it, that is shameful. Indeed, many of the clubs, there's no conviction. In short, a lot of the players will wear the laces if their teammates are doing it. The cause attached to any such adornments may not even register in the minds of some of the players. Others might actually see aesthetic qualities in the laces that can be regarded as some form of fashion. And they'll do these things long before they would contemplate the underlying subject matter. And one of the ways perhaps to evidence this is that seeing the weeks after the Rainbow Laces campaign, not one of the players voluntarily chose to wear the laces. We'll see their teammates wearing adornments that are designed to show solidarity and support with them. But I suspect that the very same people wearing such laces will be on the training ground 2 or 3 days later calling people a poof or a faggot or a queer. That's the way it is, sadly. And with that, the gay and bisexual players will detect that there's still not the necessary solidarity within their daily life. And some will no doubt be mindful that some players will grudgingly wear the laces. In an ideal world they would rather not, but what they're unprepared to do is not isolate themselves in the public domain and to be seen as a figure of protest or indeed prejudice. I believe we'll only make progress on this particular issue, and sustainably so, when clubs as employers adhere to a duty of care, when they impart information to their staff, playing operation included, that they have rights and responsibilities as employees, and that those rights and responsibilities are not absented simply because some of those in question earn thousands of pounds per week. Sadly, the clubs being proactive on this particular matter does, at this moment in time, seem a distant prospect.